Alright guys, so in this video we're checking out the Skyzone SKY04L FPV goggles, and this is going to be a pretty quick video because this new goggle here, the 04L, is essentially the same as the 04X, which is the goggle that I have been using here, the gold one here. This has been my daily analog driver for FPV, and I use it all the time, but I recently switched to this one here, the white one. This is the 04L. To use it for the last couple of weeks and wanted to see how it was. Basically, the only difference is the screen technology, which is LCOS, which stands for liquid crystal on silicon. I'm not very good at explaining what that is, so I'm going to put a link to a wiki page that explains what that is. It's definitely different from OLED technology, and the OLED screens are definitely different. The optics are different on this one, so it's got a basically a smaller lens, and this is going to be difficult to show. Let me see. Let me just show you this is the 04L lens. You can see it's got a thicker rim for this optics, but on the 04X, the lens is quite a bit bigger, and so the combination of that and the screen gives a different field of view for both of these. So the 04L has a 39-degree field of view, and the 04X has a 46-degree field of view. So for those of you guys that are field of view junkies and can't stand anything less than 100 degrees field of view, then yeah, you're probably not going to like the 04L. It's going to be smaller. But for people like me who prefer a smaller field of view, actually I'm considering switching to these 04Ls because on the 04X, the 46-degree field of view is actually a little bit too big for me, so all the corners are blurry for me, and actually the corners are cut off because the framing of the screen is too big for the optics, so I actually can't even see the full field of view for my eyes. I can almost see the full field of view in this one. Even at 39 degrees, it's a little bit too big still on this one here, so it's still very immersive, and just the tiniest amount of the corners are cut off on the 04Ls for me. But the biggest thing that's kind of giving me a pause is the screen, and it's a very, very subtle difference. I'm gonna put up on here on this in the video what the screens look like on camera, and it just does not really depict how it looks like in real life. On the camera, when I look at the video, it looks almost virtually identical. I think the camera is doing some exposure adjustments that I can't really control for. I tried fixing the shutter and all that, and I'm thinking that maybe the ISO is getting adjusted because it looks almost the same, but when you look at it in real life, it's a little bit different. It's not like a huge difference. So like if you haven't flown a lot of FPV goggles, you're probably not going to be able to notice too much of a difference. On the 04X with the OLED screen, you get a more vibrant image. It's the colors just pop a little bit more, and it just feels like it's a little bit brighter. Now, when you go back and forth, you can kind of tell it, but when you kind of use the 04Ls for a while, you can't really tell that difference so much. So, you know, when you go back and forth on the 04Ls, the screen image looks a little bit muted in terms of the colors. I wouldn't say it's like washed out or anything. It's not bad. It still looks very good. The colors still very good. It's just that doesn't quite pop as much as on the OLED screens on the 04X. So I know you can probably adjust the saturation. I'm basing this purely on the factory settings. I know you can go crazy and adjust all the settings. I just wanted to tell you guys about a comparison just based on the factory settings, and not just like, oh, I customize the settings so you know the 04Ls look better than the 04X. This is purely on default settings. So clearly you can probably tweak the settings to make the colors pop more, but just on the factory settings, it just looks like they don't quite pop as much. It doesn't look bad. The colors still look really good. Just they pop a little bit more on the OLED screens. Also on the by the way, the resolution on both screens are exactly the same as well, 1280 by 960, both 4:3:16:9 switchable. So in terms of that, there's no difference. It's just that the field of view is smaller. I think it's mostly due to the optics. Now, again, back onto the LCOS screen, the other thing I kind of noticed is that the image looked a little bit softer, not as pixelated. So I guess for certain cameras where there's a lot of pixelation, it kind of helps. Maybe it helps a little bit because on most analog cameras, because most analog cameras look pretty pixelated. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. It kind of depends on your perspective. If you're looking for a lot of sharp details and you like that pixelation, then you're probably not going to like the screen. You probably want to go for the OLED screen. So really, it's just subjective. It's just very subjective. And, even if you look at the two images, one after another, going back and forth, they're both very good, both totally flyable. It's just, in terms of like the refresh rate, the latency and all that, I hadn't noticed any additional latency on the 04Ls, these LCOS screens. Now I've heard that LCOS screens can have more latency versus an OLED screen. I've read that in various forums, but I don't do racing, so and I can't give you a racer's perspective on these goggles in terms of latency. To me, in terms of flying, just regular flying, freestyle, just flying close proximity around objects, I have no issues with latency in terms of flying. They seem the same to me, although I haven't gone through the whole measurement thing, because I honestly, that whole thing with the GoPro and then counting the frames, all that, after I've done a number of these tests with a lot of these goggles, I don't really trust that methodology anymore, so I don't do it anymore. So that's why you're not going to see in this video. I just trust based on my actual practical use of it in terms of flying it around. And to me, there doesn't seem to be any difference in terms of flyability. So obviously, you're probably going to want to consult some racers if you're a racer in terms of whether or not this is going to be fast enough for you. That I can't tell you, and I don't really have a good perspective on that. But for me, totally flyable, no problems with that. Now, as I mentioned before, everything else is the same. Same DVR, same shell. You have the same options for the two wide versus narrow faceplates. All the buttons work the same. Got the same scroll wheels. The DVR is the same as well. The H.264 DVR. You got the same steady view receiver. On everything, they look the same. They really are identical. The only difference is the screen and the optics, and even the weight's the same. So. Oh, also the price is different, so that's another difference. So the O4X are more expensive with the OLED screens, obviously, $499 retail, and then the O4Ls are cheaper at $439. So it's what is that, $60 less? Because the screen technology is less expensive screen technology. So again, if you're very price sensitive, then maybe this is going to be a factor. In terms of price performance, I still think this is pretty good. That's why I'm considering switching, because I'm kind of wondering if I really want that or need that OLED screen technology. Is it really that important to me? Because I actually feel like the smaller field of view is more flyable for me, because I don't feel like I have that sort of like tunnel vision effect. It's kind of hard to explain because you can't really see the periphery as easily on the super large field of view. However, if you can take advantage of the super large field of view and that's what you prefer, then obviously go for the larger field of view. So, again, this is very subjective. And with any FPV goggle, both of these might totally suck for you, or either one of them might be great for you, or only one or the other. It really depends on you basically sitting down flying these for a little bit of time. I can only give you my perspective on this, and that's what I'm trying to do, and it's the best I can. Anyway, I think that's going to cover it for now. Like I said, I am still kind of debating whether I will switch to this new one or not. I'm still considering that. Kind of 50-50 right now. I do like these. I feel like I can, enjoy flying these, no problem. So I may just end up switching to these. So you may see me flying these in a future video and will wonder if I've switched them as my daily driver or not. It is my daily driver right now because I've actually been using this, to test it. And haven't been using the O4X as much, or pretty much actually haven't been using it at all in the last 2 weeks. So going to continue using this one, and we'll see. If I feel like I don't have any desire to go back to the O4X, then I'm going to just keep on using this one. So I guess that'll be the test ultimately, whether or not I, if I at some point feel like, oh, I really want those OLED screens, then I might go back. But if not, then I'll just keep using this one. Hopefully that settles the debate for me. Anyway, that's going to do it for this one. Links down below if you want to check it out, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.